It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, tracking Australia's property market, where property data meets real-world market insights every week, just to keep you updated on what is going on, and there's always plenty going on. And we are completely independent, not aligned to any real estate company. It is a Thursday morning, March the 19th. And if you're turning a year older, happy birthday to you. Bruce Willis is turning 70 today, and Glenn Close, 78? Glenn Close? Always remember that Fatal Attraction movie with Michael Douglas. How good was that? Not so good for the bunny being boiled. Melbourne buyers are struggling with affordability, and many are heading down the road to Geelong, where suburbs are becoming unexpectedly hotspots. At around $500,000, these areas are offering something Melbourne can't match, which is exciting for first-home buyers prepared to make the move. Investors, yes, we know that you want to get in on this action. There is great connectivity with train access to the city and growing demand. Geelong is quickly becoming a large suburb of Melbourne's real estate market. Now, I say quickly becoming a suburb. You'll say, well, it's not a suburb, but just think about it. It is, because of that connectivity. So let's go to Geelong and catch up with Ari Levinson. He is from Baseline Financial. Welcome into the Real Estate Breakfast. Let me start with the RBA. A couple of days ago, they decided to increase the cash rate by 25 basis points. It's moved it to 4.1%, the cash rate. A close call, apparently, by the board. Some board members didn't want to increase the rate, but enough said yes, so here we are. It has risen.
Yes, morning, Craig. I know, shocking news for the everyday Aussies with the cash rate going up 25 basis points, which is going to have a real flow-on effect into household disposable incomes and into the economy.
And Anthony joined me on Tuesday.
The RBA has decided to increase the cash rate this afternoon by 25 basis points from 3.85 to 4.10%. If we had this discussion 3 weeks ago, that probably was not in play. But obviously with the war in Iran, the petrol price shock, inflation well and truly above the target range, the RBA has decided to bring that forward to the March meeting. So cash rate's up to 4.10%.
So that's what happened on Tuesday, and there's a noticeable change happening, as I say, with these first-home buyers, Ari, in Canberra. Instead of stretching their budgets in Melbourne, they're choosing the value in Geelong because of the affordability factor.
Yeah, I'm finding that a lot now through my client calls, given the borrowing capacity constraints and a lot of people really looking at their incomes. They're looking for those opportunities to move to Geelong, where it's more affordable, close proximity to Melbourne via the train station, and great schools and beaches. So who wouldn't want to live here?
Now, I talk about Geelong becoming a suburb, a large suburb of Melbourne. That's kind of like where it's heading now, right? Because so many people are making the move. And if you just get your headspace right, it's not that far.
Yeah, I've been actually commuting to Melbourne for about 7 years, and my partner still commutes via car every single day. And it's about 50 minutes to an hour door to door, which is actually not that bad. A lot of the suburbs in Melbourne, a lot of those employees are commuting similar times, whereas you can sort of live in Geelong and have that lifestyle and affordability and just get onto that train every morning, get into the city for work.
What's the cost for that? I guess you're getting a pass on a monthly basis. Well, what's the money?
Yeah, it works out to be about $20 a day for an adult ticket return, which is probably much cheaper than, I guess, considering driving in peak hour traffic and then paying for parking and the uncertainty around the traffic. So I've always sort of just got onto that train, listened to a podcast like this one, read a book or do some work, and it's been a productive ride.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you are being productive rather than strapped into the steering wheel. Investors I mentioned, they're also wanting in on this action in Geelong, and that is adding fuel to the demand when you can buy, as I say, that price point around $500,000 and achieve roughly $450 a week in rent. There's big appetite for this.
Yeah, we're finding a lot of investors seeing great value in Victoria and particularly the regional areas such as Geelong, Bendigo and Ballarat. A lot of these investors have made some strong capital growth over the past few years through equity gains in Adelaide, Perth and Brisbane. And now they're coming to Victoria with that money and then looking for those affordable areas such as Corio and Nor Lane, where the properties, as you mentioned, are around that $500,000 mark and renting at about a 5% gross yield. And some of these blocks are actually quite large in land size. So you've got the ability to add value through granny flats or construction of secondary dwellings. So yeah, given that where the borrowing capacity is at the moment and with the latest interest rate rise, a lot of investors are looking for yield and that affordability play to get into the market.
Yeah, and talking of the RBA, this is what Michelle Bullock had to say at the press conference.
The reality of our board, as you have pointed out, is quite unusual in that the bank representatives is 2 and there's 7 non-bank representatives. That is very unusual. I'm not sure if there's any other countries around the world that have that. Most have a majority representation by the bank staff, if you like. Particularly in circumstances like this, it's very difficult, it's uncertain. There are 2 very good arguments to do 2 different things. Then reasonable people can differ. That's a positive thing. So if we are being challenged by outside views, then I don't take that personally. My own view is that this is difficult stuff. Reasonable people can hold different views very reasonably. And I think the meeting today with its split decision and the process it went through, I thought was an excellent demonstration of how that can be very positive.
That is Michelle Bullock on Tuesday from the RBA. Let's talk now more about the location here, Ari, because it is playing that big role. Because just like our coverage on Monday for Ballarat being connected to Melbourne, so too is Geelong. We've talked about that access. We were talking on Monday about some of these interstate buyers, but also expats that are looking at Ballarat. Where are they coming from in Geelong? How far and wide are the people that you're talking to?
Yeah, they're coming from all over interstate. We have a lot of interstate migration, people looking to come to Geelong where there's the great lifestyle and the schools, and a lot of government agencies such as the NDIS, TAC, Barwon Health. All these are really driving that migration, together with some of the outer suburbs in Melbourne where they're looking for a bit more affordability, coming into Geelong, a little like a second satellite city where they can have strong employment and a great lifestyle.
We are talking to Ari in Geelong this morning. Next, we're going to have a look at gentrification. We'll do that after this.
Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey. The Real Estate Podcast sounds like this.
Yeah, human contact is code for authenticity. And because you come from real estate 20 years ago, you're a different animal completely to somebody that's getting involved in real estate now. They're used to the social media. That's why we see a different style emerging. It's all about that human contact face to face and being as authentic as you can.
Oh, I agree. And one of the things that's interesting at the moment is some of the younger buyers, when they're wanting to submit an offer on a home, they will just send an email or a text message. I find that really interesting because I encourage them to pick up the phone so we can actually talk about their expectations and their needs and just talking through the whole process. And I always joke around and say, why don't we use the old-fashioned way and why don't we just chat on the phone about your interest this afternoon instead of sending me an email? And there's so many different ways that an offer could be submitted by a buyer, and you would be terribly disappointed if the agent that you were submitting that to missed your offer and you missed out on buying a dream home. I always think for such a big purchase, and it is a very big purchase in everyone's lives, is that personal contact is just paramount. And it's a really lovely start to the relationship.
If you're a new listener, welcome. We talk to the most knowledgeable real estate experts across Australia every day from 6 a.m.
It is a Real Estate Thursday and we are in Geelong. Ari is with me. Ari, I want to talk about something that is starting to emerge is early stage gentrification in Geelong. As more buyers move in, the demand obviously lifts, infrastructure improves, and the profile of these suburbs begins to change. It's a pattern that we've seen before, affordable areas attracting more attention, then gradually transform as new residents reshape the local market. So that's a really big thing at the moment going on there in Geelong.
Yes, definitely. I think given with the affordability constraints, a lot of first home buyers and younger investors are getting pushed out from those blue chip suburbs into those secondary locations, which is then having that flow on effect to the gentrification. Those houses are getting renovated over time, and they're also, those cafes are popping up, and that just starts to flow on into the local economy. Some of the suburbs that I looked at, like the Norlane and Corio, which I recently spoke about, a few years ago, they had quite high socioeconomic status and there was a lot of crime and things like that. But a lot of those properties now have been knocked down, and then 3 have been put into place. They've got a new swimming pool there, the Spirit of Tasmania, a new shopping centre that's been recently refurbished. So all these things are changing the local demographic and landscape of the Geelong market.
It's definitely changing. And I want to talk about one common mistake from buyers that is frustrating you at the moment, which is still happening in 2026. What would that be?
It's very difficult to save your way to wealth and save faster than how fast the properties grow, particularly in Geelong at this point in time. So I found a lot of clients where they want to just wait another 6 months to a year to continue saving up. But what they don't understand is that the property market continues to move away from under their feet. And as interest rates continue to go up, their borrowing capacity comes down. So at the time when they've finally saved that money for their deposit, they actually can borrow less and the house is worth more. So just educating them and having that confidence to take that leap of faith, as long as you understand your cash flow and you've got the right buffers behind you, I always suggest to get into the market when you can afford it and have that long-term perspective, and that'll keep you okay.
Good stuff, Ari. Nice to talk about the Geelong property market and what you're doing there. Thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning. Enjoy your Thursday and, have a busy 2026 where you are.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks a lot for having me.
Explore new property destinations where you could live with exclusive interviews covering real estate news and market insights.
You should be picking your buyer's agent on their expertise as opposed to other agents where you know they can't do a deal to save themselves and you have to wait till auction.
So, in our book at the moment, we have quite a few, almost $400 million. So one of them has a $44.5 million to about $150 million. So the vendor doesn't want to go on the market and the buyer doesn't want to buy from the market.
For homeowners, we see it sort of being a really positive outcome because it's equity gains are being retained rather than lost. We see values are really being supported by genuine demand, not really short-term speculation.
Get your statements, get a highlighter, go through and highlight where have I spent my money, what can I cut my expenses out, where could I increase my budget. So I'm pretty big on that.
People are sort of considering settlement's going to be in a year to 2 years' time where they'll have to come up with the money, and then they're factoring in the growth and they're saying, well, I can potentially secure a property without having to pay for it whilst gaining that 5 to 10% growth.
And the great thing about those stretches as well, from Broadbeach to Burleigh, we have a lot of these small commercial centres that up and down the stretch of the highway through there. It's a really nice place to live, and they've got the light rail coming in as well. So it's making it a lot of easy access and getting down into surface paradise.
If you've got a question that needs answering, you can email us at myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.